Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining this live. Today I'm going to be talking to my friend Erika. So, I met Erika in 2018 when I just moved back to California from Oahu. And I met her at the spa that her and Dagmara and I worked at together. It's called Hylunia. It's in Costa Mesa, so once everything kind of calms down and things are open again, I highly recommend you go to Hylunia because it's filled with lots of wonderful people and it's just such a good environment to be in. I never thought I would miss it as much as I do, but I miss it and I miss everybody there. There's Erika. Let me see. And then Erika taught me a lot about food, and she's a really good dancer. She's a very good salsa dancer. Let's see. It's waiting for her. Let's
Bronte.
It worked! Yay! Hi!
It worked somehow. Just my phone was like not, or my laptop was just not having it.
It's
Let's see
okay.
if I can get more light.
You look so pretty, Erika.
Oh, thank you. My light's all off.
Yeah.
Hi, how are
Hi!
you?
Good. How are
I'm
you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Okay,
I'm doing
second time's a charm. I see my friend Kevin. Hi, Kevin. Okay, so let's just wait a while, just like a minute or two, and then oh look, there's Karen. Okay, there's some people joining, so this is good. I was just talking about how I met you and how you taught me how to eat healthy and how we would go dancing a lot.
Those were some fun times. Like I think that salsa adventures and just like food adventures were some good memories. Like they're such a good way to release, especially for dancing.
I know. I just remember like dancing to like what 3 a.m. My feet hurting so bad, but in a good way. In a good way.
Oh my gosh. I can't those it seems like such a long time ago. Like it's crazy.
But it
Can't
wasn't
even.
the crazy thing. It wasn't a long time ago, but it's weird. But
Mhm.
okay, so we have some people on, so we'll just get started. So thank you everybody for watching. Today I'm going to be talking to my very good friend, Miss Erika Gonzalez, and she is an Ayurvedic practitioner who not only focuses on a healthy home, but a healthy mindset. So thank you for being with us today, Erika.
Yay, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so let's start with where you are from.
Yeah, so I am originally from Mexico and currently working in or practicing out of Southern California here in the lovely Orange County.
Mhm. And so, what inspired you to begin your Ayurvedic journey?
So I feel so there it's kind of like an interesting way. So in general, I feel that Ayurveda kind of found me back when maybe about like mm, 4, 5 years ago. I was going to school or to classes with Dermalogica. And at the time, I was trying to understand more of things with your skincare and how ingredients work and stuff like that, because that was my main background was doing makeup,
Mhm.
skincare, hair, all that stuff. And then at the time, I think it was like they had decided to partner with somebody who tests on animals, and I didn't want to be a part of contributing to basically like a business that was contributing. Even if they were like, no, we don't test on animals, they were still in a way contributing by doing this
Mhm.
partnership. And I started looking for alternatives because I had already made my transition into more of a um, clean beauty background.
Yeah.
And I was like, there has to be something else. So then I went and I was looking for like holistic modules that I could apply so that I could understand how like herbs work on your skin. Cause I was like, this is so much more fascinating. I want to figure out what I can do long term. And then, um, and then Ayurveda kept popping up, like never typed it in, never looked it up. I have literally no idea how, but I was like, okay, like something's gonna come up.
Yeah.
And then uh, and then Ayurveda kept popping up. And so I looked it up because I was like, what is this? Like I didn't even know how to say it.
Yeah.
Um, and so I look it up and I see there's all these, like when you first look it up, it's kind of weird. Like there's like really strange things that are on the internet as to like what Ayurveda is, and a lot of it gets like piled in with the fact that there's a certain section in Ayurveda that uses like you have these certain minerals or rocks or crystals and stuff that you can use
Mm-hmm.
for your health purposes, and people see that and they just kind of like get turned off, but it's very unique. It's
Mm-hmm.
there's a purpose. But anyways, the more that I kept on looking, the more that these random Ayurveda schools kept on popping up. And so there's a section on Ayurveda that is just herbology. And I was like, you know what, this is going to be really cool. I'm going to see what it's about. I'm going to check it out. So I signed up to a few different schools. And they were all really far. There was like some way past LA, way down in San Diego. And I think it like randomly just happened to be that there was this school I applied to. They sent me the information and I had to go do like in order to be a part of the program, you have
Mm-hmm.
to speak to the program director to see if you're like a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
And so the lady I was speaking to sent me a like the information, the link, the directions, and then I looked it up and it was literally like 10 minutes from my house.
Oh, wow.
And from there, I was like, oh, wow, this is really cool. And that's kind of how it all started. It was just me trying to find a random skincare aspect. And then I ended up staying for the whole body aspect. So that was always fun.
Nice. And so when you started on this journey, did you receive support from your family and your friends?
Um, they didn't really know what I was doing. Like they understood that it was a new, like, I don't know, I've always been like the friend that's been doing all of the like natural, like organic stuff. So I think it was
Mm-hmm.
just came as another thing that I was doing in
Yeah.
that realm. My family has been always like supportive because it's a form of education, and so they understand that it's something that I'm doing to better myself and the well-being of everyone. Um, but because it's so foreign, it's just kind of like, what are you doing? And then
Yeah.
there was support, but they just didn't know exactly what was happening. So um, it was a very interesting time frame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, well, thank you for sharing all that stuff. And with that, we can kind of like venture a little bit into your school education. So, what schools did you attend?
So I went to Southern California University of Health Sciences, or SCU for short. Um, a lovely like private university in Whittier, and it's a really neat and awesome place because they have all of the health sciences. It's not just Ayurveda, but there was chiropractors, there were um, physical therapists, acupuncturists, all that stuff, all like coupled together in one area, which I really enjoyed. And then once the school was over, I did a few like continuing education credits with some of the professors that teach there. They also have like their own academies that you
Mm-hmm.
can go through and continue to learn more about it, because Ayurveda is like it's not something you just pick up, like it's a continuous evolvement of
Yeah.
a knowledge that you have to learn to really like apply to your life and other people's lives.
Nice. And so, what was your experience like when you were in school learning about all of this?
At the time, I mean, it was really neat because so many of us were able to be a part of this science that we were all unfamiliar with, but we all basically just got led to it. Like it was really neat because you start hearing all the different stories of people and how they came to find
Mm-hmm.
Ayurveda. And it's like, it's so similar to where my thing is, where it's just like some random off thing happened, and then all of a sudden they were being called to come over to study Ayurveda. Uh,
Yeah.
but in general, like It was really nice. Everybody was like-minded, and then just being in a school that supported the health and well-being of everyone, whether they understood Ayurveda or not. It was just really nice to be a part of something that was out to make a difference for so many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I know you also mentioned that it was a little bit stressful because you were learning another language, right?
Yeah, basically the whole entire thing, they're translating from Sanskrit, which is like the original language that it was written out in, and it's basically these like poetry, right? And Sanskrit, a lot of it, if you might have heard of it, but a lot of it is used like during yoga.
Mhm.
Some of the phrases that they use are Sanskrit terms as well, and so you have to learn to change the words from Sanskrit to English, but they don't translate the way they do. So you have to like it was it's really hard, it's really hard and difficult just trying to apply the Western aspect to the Eastern aspect, but then you have to take in the Sanskrit aspect too. So it was a little hard. It was a little difficult at the beginning.
Wow. You didn't tell me that when we were prepping for this. That's really cool. I had no idea. Um, and so with all of this, what do you feel that the school prepared you for?
I think in general, it contributed to being able to um, give a more broad, not prescription, but just like more broad representation of what Ayurveda is. Mostly because a lot of the time, if you come across like a nutrition aspect or a yoga aspect or whatever, like it's just those things that get applied into your life. But with Ayurveda, it really prepares you more so to give an overall whole body, like holistic aspect,
Mhm.
so that you're not just treating like the mind, you're also treating the body, you're also treating the soul. Um, I think that's one thing that I would have to say that I would say they best helped me with.
Perfect. And so what do you feel that school did not prepare you for?
Um, Not necessarily that it didn't
Mhm.
prepare me for. I think that they did a good job of mentioning that because it's such a new science that um, it would be like harder to get across for somebody who hasn't heard of Ayurveda. So I wouldn't necessarily say that they didn't prepare me for it. I would just say that maybe like it could be maybe more like emphasized
Right.
as to the fact that you need to do more consistent work to get it out there instead of thinking that everybody will know it. There's definitely more work to it.
Yeah. No, that's very true because I still think, yeah, I remember when you first talked about it, I was like, what is that made up word that she's saying? I thought it was a made up word, but then, but I learned more about it, but it's still like, I think I agree with you. It's, if you're not in that world, it's really hard to like learn about it unless you
Yeah.
ask about it.
Yeah.
But thank you for that, Erica. And so with that, we get to talk about the exciting part, for me at least, is you sharing your art of Ayurveda with us. And so, um, like I said when we were talking about it, I don't know if you have anything that you want to show or display, or if you just kind of want to talk about the different things that Ayurveda has to offer, because I think we're doing really good on time. I'm not keeping track, but I know that we have a lot of time. So I know that there were three main things that you wanted to discuss. So I'll let you take it away from there.
Fun. Okay. I'm trying to make it because I feel like it's so dark, so I just want to
It's not
maybe
dark.
like
It's so bright. It's really bright where you are. Yeah.
okay. Okay, cool. I don't know, like my screen just looks so dark, so I was like, can they see me?
No, I can.
Um, okay, good. So yeah, so Ayurveda is basically like 5,000 at this point. I feel like it would be closer to like a 6,000-year-old Indian medicine science. It
Mhm.
like translates into the science of life basically, and a lot of people don't necessarily realize that so many different things have been taken from Ayurveda that we apply into like our regular day-to-day life and practices now. Like I think like in general, like the surgery aspect of a lot of the modern day things that we have with surgery were originally taken from Ayurveda. A lot of like the self-care stuff that you see, that's going to be like all of the dry brushing, the body oils, and um, like the I think the dry scrubs, the
Mm-hmm.
most of the dry scrubs, all of that is basically taken from bits and pieces of Ayurvedic portions. In Ayurveda, like it's not just Ayurveda, but there's Ayurveda for so many different categories. There's actually 8 branches of Ayurveda. And most of the time, I feel like it's like what you see with Ayurveda, which is like all of the beauty stuff, the facials and the body scrub and all of that. It's just kind of taken from the science of rejuvenation. But just going into them, there's like the internal medicine section, there's surgery section, there's the ENT, like the ears, nose, throat doctors that
Mm-hmm.
you like, see a lot. Pediatrics, toxicology, there's also psychiatry, and as I mentioned, like the science of rejuvenation and aphrodisiacs. So all of that has its own individual categories, and all of those have specifics that you need to follow with Ayurvedic protocols in order to kind of expand on them. And it's really neat. Like a lot of people really just acknowledge the aspect of the doshas, which is what people mostly hear when somebody listens to Ayurveda. Then they think of the doshas, which are the 3 main body types, and those 3 main body types are like governed by the 5 elements, in which case they contribute a certain aspect to your life based on those different elements.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. That's yeah, that's a lot, Erica. But I mean, you can keep going in depth with it if you want. Like we have a lot of time. So if you want to
Yeah.
go deeper into that, you're more than welcome to.
Sure. So, for example, like with the doshas, which is kind of like more of what people will first hear, especially if you're going to go and you're going to speak to a practitioner, they'll try and find out like what your dosha is so that they can categorize what what best like plan is going to be for you. So for example, there's like the Vata dosha, which is more so governed by like the air and space elements.
Mm-hmm.
We also have the Pitta dosha, which is going to be fire and water. And then we have the Kapha dosha, which is going to be earth and water as well. And
Mm-hmm.
so all of those 3 have specific elements. Like for example, for Vata, like when you think of the Vata elements of air and space, like those are very fluid, and so they're constantly on the move. So when
Mm-hmm.
you come across somebody who is more Vata predominant or maybe more like Vata imbalance, you see
Mm-hmm.
that they'll tend to have a lot of anxiety. It's harder for them to stay focused because they're like trying to do one thing, but they're already thinking of like the next thing that they have to complete. So it's just kind of like always go, go, go. They tend to be like super creative. And then we have the Pitta dosha, which is like the more of the fiery dosha. You see more of like the business-minded people just because they have that fire element, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the Kapha dosha.
Mm-hmm.
And so generally with kaphas, because those elements, the earth and water, like they're already heavier in nature. So then kaphas tend to be closer to be heavier in nature. So sometimes for them, even though they have really good memories, even though they're super caring, super chill, super just kind people, with them though, you do tend to see that sometimes they will have more the experience of maybe having a harder time losing weight, or they gain weight really easily, or
Mm-hmm.
they'll have a lack of inspirations and stuff like that. Um, and that's kind of like the 3 basic doshas that most people will go and they like categorize, and then you try and balance those based on the condition that people have so that you can have like a better overall healthier lifestyle. I hope
Yeah.
that makes sense.
No,
It's a lot. It's really
yeah,
wordy.
no, that makes sense to me because I still remember when we would be at the spa and we would kind of like do their doshas like with Vata Pitta Kapha, and then we would give them the tea, and each tea tasted different per person or with the dosha. So it makes sense to me. I hope it makes sense to everyone else who's watching. But oh yeah, so like I was just counting time. So we have 30 minutes, Erica. So if you want to like talk more about like the branches and what they mean, you have a lot of time.
A lot of time. Look
Yeah.
at that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Um, yeah, sorry, give me a second. I'm having issues with this stand thing.
Yeah, yeah, you're
Okay.
fine.
Um, we can kind of go over, so like with the aspect of surgery,
Hmm.
we have um, it's basically the father of surgery, I guess you can say, was it's Sushruta. So
Hmm.
that's he's basically like considered the father of surgery. We have like abdominal obstructions, like bladder stones, plastic surgeries, random things like that have kind of all originated from that aspect of 5,000-ish years ago.
Hmm.
Um, so many of that was taken from there. The ear, nose, and throat diseases, like all of that is like, I mean, if I go more into that, then it gets a little bit more medical, and it's just a little crazy with that. But just know that the ear, nose, and throat, like there's 72 eye diseases, and they all like categorize as different. Um, and then we have also, let's see, ear, nose, throat, pediatrics.
Hmm.
Pediatrics, just like the basics of children's medicine. So there's different things that you can do to be able to maintain the overall health of your child.
Hmm.
Um, but it can go back as far as like pregnancy, like what you would do, the steps to be able to maintain a healthy pregnancy, all of the things that you would do like during your pregnancy,
Yeah.
and then afterwards, like the best protocol for them to have to just be able to be like healthy individuals. Um, Toxicology, pretty like self-explanatory. I feel like you just kind of go through and understand a little bit more of what mixtures, chemical mixtures that you
Hmm.
can mix for the overall well-being of somebody, but it could also be how to not give somebody an herbal protocol that's going to be toxic to their bodies.
Hmm.
Um, Psychiatry, also kind of self-explanatory, but you just kind of focus more on things with the mind and how to cater it based on like the doshas that are maybe off balance, and then there's certain treatments that you would follow, like the Shirodara that you got to experience. Um, Maybe like other cleansing things that you would be able to do as well, just to be able to just keep the mind overall balanced. Um, the science of rejuvenation, that one's really neat too, because you
Hmm.
see a lot of the interest of like how to have an overall like ageless beauty, and
Yeah.
there's certain herbs that you could have for that. There's certain like body treatments, and this is where like all of the nice things that you hear about Ayurveda kind of like come from,
Hmm.
because you can take supplements, but you can also do all the luxurious body treatments. Um, and then there's the science of aphrodisiacs, and that's just how to overall maintain like a um, healthy sex life, I guess you would say. Um, I don't know if I can say that on Instagram, but
No, yeah.
um,
No, you can. I don't care about it. I don't know if Instagram cares about it.
it's just like different things to maintain like a healthy overall like reproductive system.
Hmm.
And it's really like it's not just about the sex life, it's just really leading into like um, being able to have offspring. So you want to have healthy like steps to your sex life, and then be able to have healthy steps leading to the birth of your child and
Mm,
um, all of that.
cool.
Yes.
No, no, thank you, Erica. Yeah, that's a lot of really good stuff. I came up with some questions, but I think I'll ask them after I ask you the ones that we already planned for. But is there anything else you want to talk about in regards to Ayurveda before we move on? Because I know you mentioned such a like a lot of stuff, but is there anything else you want to mention before we move on? Because like I said, you still have a lot of time, so yeah.
I think that, I mean, really what comes to mind is just that because Ayurveda, as you mentioned, like there's so much information to it. Um, it's just important when considering a practitioner that you find out a lot of good information as to like what their background may be or like where they studied and just like what their overall experience and focus is on. Um, Mostly because of the fact that there are some places out there that maybe like 2, 3 months, they offer like a 2, 3 month course on Ayurveda and then someone's
Mhm.
labeled a practitioner.
Yeah.
But being a practitioner takes like a lot of work. And so in order to really feel like you're getting taken care of and just understood, I would just say to really really make sure you understand like the kind of practitioner that you have and the kind of information that you hope for to get from them so that you know that you're really going to be treated well.
Yeah. No, thank you for that, Erica. I actually forgot that you wanted to say that. And I looked at my notes, I was like, crap. I forgot to ask her about that. No, so thank you. Thank you so much for sharing all of this and I know it's you could talk about it way more. But just to like give us like a little bit is just wonderful. So thank you. And with that, I'm gonna ask you the following question, which is how do you feel being a female Ayurvedic artist slash practitioner? Because I consider you an artist because this is all an art form within itself. Um, but yeah, it's just me asking if like you've ever not felt like supported or if you've ever been harassed doing your while practicing your art.
Um, I have not felt supported. I actually feel that Ayurveda is super inclusive and um, some of the practitioners that you see, like they're like amazing women. And if anything, it makes like, for example, some of the professors that I have are male as well. And if anything, like you see that sense of pride and that sense of like acknowledgement that they were able to grow the Ayurveda community by one other person. Um, so I've never experienced any kind of like weird stuff in this community. I feel like it's very accepting, and they just really want more people to understand what it is and have more people feel confident understanding that Ayurveda is here to heal and
Mm-hmm.
help. Yeah.
Yeah. And so how are you taking care of yourself physically and emotionally during this time, being the pandemic?
During this time, like sometimes it's hard to remember that like we need to take a step back and
Mhm.
just get ourselves a little bit more grounded. I've been really like on the days that I feel like I'm like running,
Mhm.
then I have to remember that that very little chance, whether little or big, that I have to calm and recollect my thoughts.
Yeah.
Um, I need to do something for myself, and sometimes that can just look like sitting down and just like relaxing
Mhm.
with the book, with my phone, with the TV. Um, Sometimes like it's going out for a walk. Sometimes it's just listening to a meditation. Um, my general thing is like cooking. Like I usually go and make something. um, that's been like our family's way to escape and to not escape, but that's our form of showing more appreciation and just feeling like there's so much more um, normalcy is sharing a meal, sharing some memories, and just I think that's kind of what you need sometimes. It's just remembering that you need it. make some good memories despite the situations that are going on outside.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. And my last question before we leave it open to audience, but I'm also going to ask a few questions in case the audience gets shy. um, do you have any advice you would like to give to artists or anybody who's interested in learning about Ayurveda?
I would say to do it. It's a really neat science. Most of the time, people don't realize that Ayurveda and yoga are sister sciences.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start learning bits and pieces of yoga, like you realize how Ayurveda can be incorporated into the overall life.
Yeah.
Um, if it's something that you're being called to figure out or something that you're like trying to just kind of see if it's going to work with your life, I feel like it's something that you should do. It's not easy, I won't say that, but it is worth it, like 100%.
Yay. I just saw that D joined. I'm sorry. I don't know if you can see who joins, but yeah, D just joined. Hi, D. Yeah, no, thank you so much for saying that. I also didn't know that Ayurveda and yoga were like sisters. And it wasn't until I was in Hailunia and I think you and Jill um kind of talked a little bit about it and were incorporating it more and I was like, "Oh, it's all just like one big thing. It's just connected." Hi, D.
Yeah, so people don't realize that they're sister sciences, and when people just do yoga, like I remember for myself, like I was starting yoga and I would do all of the fast-paced yoga classes because I felt like if I was faster, then I was doing more for my body, right? Um, but then having gone through Ayurveda, like you realize that every body type requires a specific type of yoga, and sometimes, a slow, gentle flow or a restorative flow is really more of what you need. And that was probably the most eye-opening thing is realizing that with Ayurveda, you couple it with yoga, but you make it about the individual. It's not like about what kind of pose you can do or what kind of twist, whatever it may be. Like twists are nice, but they also aren't always the best for someone. So
Yeah.
it's nice to put them together, to mold them together as sciences that basically they're sister sciences. So
Yeah.
it's nice.
Thank you so much, Erica. And with that, we'll leave it open for questions. So, D, if you have any questions, or anybody else who's watching, please ask them. Can you hear the chickens? I'm sorry, there's like chickens in my backyard and they're being really.
No, I can't.
Okay, good.
That's
No, better that way. They're being so loud. Yeah, no, so I actually did have a couple of questions and I remember one time when I think we were hanging out at at Dee's house pre-COVID. I remember you talking about how you were learning that there's I don't know if this is Ayurveda or not, that's why I wanted to wait to ask after. How you said that like sometimes if you are very excelled or very knowledgeable, like someone can know what's going on just by like reading your wrist or something like that. I don't know if you want to
yeah.
elaborate on it.
Yeah, so there's different ways that we find out like the imbalance or just like the overall like condition of an individual.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we look at their tongue, sometimes we look at their eyes, their like overall like the color, not the color of the skin, but like if there is any discoloration with what may be going on. But we also do pulse reading, which is a huge aspect of the diagnosis process.
Mm-hmm.
And pulse reading is fascinating because you can find out so much about an individual
Mm-hmm.
just from being able to read like I guess like you're literally using three fingers. You're sensing the aspect of the where it beat, and then you can figure out if there is a mental condition going on, if there is pain. Like, for example, some people will tell you that they have pain in like their lower back,
Mm-hmm.
or their foot or something. And then when you read their pulse, you can kind of identify which maybe like which organ, which part of their body is actually the one that's creating that discomfort. But it manifests in different parts of the body. And so I know for me it was really awesome when as I mentioned at the beginning of this, when you start the program, or at least where I went, you have to meet with the director to see if you're a good candidate for the program. And I had like some random issue with a certain situation at home, and I remember the director, like, she was feeling my pulse, and she was like talking to me about it happened to be about my relationship, but she started telling me about, like, oh, like, you really need to think about, what may be going on in your heart and what may be going on, like, with the situation in your home, like, that
Mm-hmm.
affects so much and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, she went into more detail, which I'm not going to share here, but I remember her telling me, and I was like, how do you know that? Like, she knew so much about me just from reading my pulse. And I was amazed. Like, from there on, I was like, I want to know how to do that. Like, how can I do this? I need to do this. So that was actually one of the main reasons that I decided to take the program, was because I wanted to know how to read the pulse and identify what's going on with somebody's body. Um, yeah, it's neat. Some people like super fast. Like, it's an art form. It really is, to be able to read the pulse like that. Um, you can develop it as time goes on, but reading the pulse is absolutely fascinating, and like, so much about them. Like, sometimes, like, if I were to do it on you and I'm like, oh, maybe she's having some kind of stressful event that is creating some constipation, or maybe it's creating this or that. Like, um, it's really neat, especially when you can start pinpointing like the different organs that are being affected.
Yeah. I'm so glad you shared that because I still remember when you told me what the person shared and how they knew so much. I was like, how do they know that? I was like, I want to go there. It's just so cool. But Dee actually has a question. So she said, Erica, how can we incorporate Ayurveda in everyday life? And is it possible to incorporate bits and bytes without diving fully in it? That's good.
Um, you can. I feel like the daily routine stuff of just like acknowledging. So like, and this is why I mentioned that it's so heavy, because earlier with what I mentioned with all the different categories, but there is the section of just focusing on your daily routines. Um, your daily routines being like, you start your day, you empty your have your bowel movements, you cleanse like everything from like your eyes, your skin, your nose, your
Mhm.
throat, your whole body. There's like basic things that you do just to cleanse with that, but I feel like the easiest way is to just kind of incorporate eating seasonally, and then just kind of seeing what your body type is, um, and really identifying like what works with your body and what doesn't, because since Ayurveda is so, it's hard to grasp for some people, and there's so much information out there that can be a little bit misleading. So sometimes the best way to figure out what's going on is like to eat something or drink something and see how your body feels and how it reacts, and see if that's something that's going to be good for a vata or a pitta condition. But I mean, in general, I feel like listening to what your body wants is really important. Eating seasonally is really important, and just like knowing to not exhaust yourself to the state of the imbalance of whatever dosha you may have, um, especially if you're experiencing like, whether it's like restlessness, or maybe like too much frustration or too much lethargy. It just kind of depends on your dosha, but I feel like in general, just adding on seasonal stuff, and making sure to listen to your body by cleaning like yourself through the daily routine aspect. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Thank you, Dee. If you have another question, please just write it down. But no, that's really good. She kind of asked something that I was also gonna ask, but what can you talk more about Shirodara? Because I kind of remember it, but it I don't remember it that well.
Shirodara is basically like a bliss treatment, if you will. That's kind of like falls under the category of a lot of people putting it into this like moment of bliss, right? Especially after you've had the treatment. Um, Shirodara is an oil. It's an oil drop treatment that falls onto your like your
Remember?
third. Yeah, you remember.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you have this warm oil. Generally, for the most part, depending on the condition, like sometimes you'll see a sesame, sometimes you'll see a brahmi, sometimes, I mean, there's different kinds. There's like water and milk aspects also. But Shiradaras in general are really nice treatments for the nervous system. So anyone who has anxiety, sleeplessness, um, also restlessness as well, like anything that is related to the nervous system is going to be really beneficial for Shiradaras. We had people coming into the clinic that had like that were schizophrenic, and the Shiradaras we would add on as part of their treatment, just to be able to help the mind and be able to maintain more of a state of balance for the nervous system. Um, it's a really nice treatment. It's really beneficial. It could also just be for relaxation. It doesn't have to be like super medical, but for the most part, Shirodara is a really nice treatment for just the overall condition of your nervous system and your body.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Yeah, as soon as you said the oil, I was like, oh, I know what that is. I remember. I remember. Um, no, thank you for sharing that. And so what other body treatments can you do for Ayurveda?
For Ayurveda, there are a few different ones. So if you there's abhyangas, which are basically like this oil. It's an oil body treatment. It's not a massage. It's it's mostly categorized under a massage, but it's its own treatment. Um, but it's like a nice overall. Did you get to have one at Hylunia? I can't remember if you did or not.
Either. But if you describe it more, I'll say yes or no.
So basically, you're using these long strokes with a bunch of oil. Like it's not a lotion base, but you use a bunch of oil throughout the head, throughout the whole entire body, and you're using more of like long strokes. It's meant more for like detox purposes. But
Mhm.
there's the Avianca, there's like these Basti treatments that we do to really like localize a like pain like management, pain management. You basically like create this little dam with some it's kind of like a flour, like a looks like a little dough almost.
Mhm.
Put some warm oil in there, and you use those through Bastis. There's Bastis, Biancas. There's different Marma treatments. Um, there's the Shiradaras. There's these little boluses that you can make also for pain management.
Mhm.
And you put like specific herbs in there based on what they do for the body, and then you like use them on the individual. Um, it's kind of there's quite a few. I mean, there's also the detoxification one, the panchakarma, which is a bigger treatment. It's kind of like a big reset on the body.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think those are the main ones, and then the rest of it just kind of depends on what the person needs.
Yeah. I don't think I ever did that at Hylunia. I'm trying to think. It doesn't come to mind. But it sounds really cool though.
Really.
Yeah. And then but yeah, I think those are all mainly all the questions I have. I don't know if anybody else has any other questions because we have like a good 10 minutes left. Did you want to say anything else about any of the stuff that we're talking about right now, Erica?
Um, the only I'm trying to like think. Um, I know that there are like with the same mention of yoga. I mean, I think what I would say is that with Ayurveda, like there are different things that you can add on to help the individual. Like
Mm-hmm.
we don't just like tell you to do something and then you do it, but we go through different things of identifying like which herbs are going to be better for you,
Mm-hmm.
which meditation or breath work is going to be better for you. And then we couple that with suggestions of like what time of the day or um, what to add into your
Yeah.
diet.
Mm-hmm.
And a good amount of it too is like we do add certain like different mantras or affirmations depending on the condition of the individual. Like if
Mm-hmm.
it's more of a mental thing that they have going on, like sometimes adding on an affirmation or a mantra is going to be good for them just so that they can practice it with their life, practice it with the food, and then add it on with an affirmation to really start like living and believing
Mm-hmm.
themselves instead of just thinking that it's like something that you take. Like a lot of Western medicine is like more take a medicine and then feel better.
Yeah.
But with Ayurveda, it's you have to put in your own work. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just something that's going to happen instantaneous. There's so many pieces of the puzzle that you need to bring together to really heal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the individual has to be ready to heal themselves um, to really get the most benefits out of Ayurveda, I would say.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that, Erica. I just remembered a few other things when you were talking about it. I was like, oh, I forgot. So, I know that you mentioned how like Ayurveda and yoga are connected. Is sound bowl healing connected to Ayurveda or no?
Not necessarily. Like it's not. I feel like it's a more of a newer. I don't want to say like new age, but
Mm-hmm.
it's more of a newer concept, and like it doesn't originate from Ayurveda.
Oh, okay.
Um, you can incorporate it like as if you're incorporating yoga and breath work, but sound healing coupled with it can be beneficial just because it
Mm-hmm.
is another form of healing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's not originating from Ayurveda.
Okay.
That was your question.
Yeah, yeah. And what about acupuncture?
Acupuncture is from Chinese medicine. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's a lot of similarities in between Ayurveda and Chinese medicine, especially like the elements.
Mm-hmm.
But they have added, I think they have wood as an added element, and we don't, Ayurveda doesn't include that in the elements that we use. Um, but there's like a whole vast amount of other herbs that they use that we don't. And then they also do they're big on the digestive system, the elements, pulse reading, and looking at your tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they're very similar, but they're like from totally different regions. But there is like an aspect of it that would be kind of taken because Ayurveda is so old. They're
Mm-hmm.
like part of the history was the aspect of like Buddhist monks learning from like the old Vedic sages and then taking some of their knowledge and as they're going through and carrying their, I guess, like spreading the word of
Mm-hmm.
what they practice. If they were more well versed with Ayurveda, then they would also teach other people. And so a good chunk of what is Ayurveda is also seen in a lot of the Chinese medicine. Um, but there's a good amount of Like I think it's just from them kind of going through and what's that word? Like I don't want to say pilgrimage because that sounds weird. Um, I forget the word, but a book of it was taken from the Buddhist monks that were literally like taught this science and then taken and with added on to their philosophy as they
Hmm.
went through all of that Asia area.
Yeah.
So it's really
Yeah, no, thank you for saying that. I think no, I'm really glad you shared that because I always remember that acupuncture is from Chinese medicine, but then I didn't know that I thought they were incorporated together. So thank you for answering that question. That helps me a lot. And yeah, so my
um,
last, huh?
I just want to say it's not so much that they're incorporated together, they just have a lot of things that they share in common,
Hmm.
but they're not a lot like you can incorporate them as in having like two different practitioners or like a doctor and guide you through as more of integrative medicine, but they're not they're just two different sciences that require so much more so much more knowledge on both of their parts.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you for that.
Mhm.
Thank you for correcting me. Um, so yeah, my last question, and I think we're gonna be out of time soon, is so I kind of have an idea of how it goes because I remember when we worked together, sometimes you would take clients and they would consult with you about Ayurveda. But I don't think I've ever been in it, and I think we did like a short one time. But how, if somebody wants to consult with you and say that they want to better their health or start their Ayurvedic journey with you, how does is it consult and a consult? How does that
Mhm.
go about, or what happens when you're talking
During the
to
conference.
the person?
So for the most part, I like to understand like what their overall concern or their goal is.
Yeah.
So if someone's coming in for stress relief or weight management, um, then I get an overall history of the individual. And that can just be like anywhere from their like overall health, their menstrual history, any kind of conditions like surgeries or present day things that they have going on with their bodies. It's as I mentioned before, like it's very medical. Like Ayurveda is definitely not it's not even though it's seen as a spa kind of a science, it's actually very medicinal. And so we have to go through the whole health history. I check their pulse, I check their tongue. Um, I get a good idea as to what's going on with like their bowel movements. Um, and then based on that, then sometimes if they're completely new, then I'll have them follow and answer the Vata Pitta Kapha questionnaire so we can see like which one would most fall under. Even though sometimes like when you see an individual, you can basically like tell what kind of dosha they are, but sometimes some people want to see it for themselves, so then I'll have them fill it out. Um, and then from there, then I get their health history, I get their dosha, I get their goal, and I put it all together with different protocols for diet, lifestyle, herbal, breath work,
Mhm.
exercise. I give it to them so that they could practice for the next like 3 weeks. Um, and then when they come back, it just kind of depends on if there's any modifications we had to do and how much effort they put into it. And then we just kind of walk alongside them, but or I try and have them understand that even though I'm walking alongside you, it's still important that you do your own work as well
Mhm.
because it's your health journey, it's your health, but you need to want that in order to really see results and understand that it's not. something that you're going to take to make you feel better, but it's really work that you need to do. And a lot of that, you find out that it's a lot of inner work that you've been suppressing. And, um, and then it comes out and you feel so much more better. That's a really neat, it's a really neat thing to see when you're at the end of it. And usually like, I feel like 3 weeks is a good start, but then like 3 months later is when you really see the person change and shine and just feel so much lighter, like not just physically, but like internally. It's really neat.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that, Erica. I was gonna ask you one more question, and then with that, we'll like end it. Because I don't think I remember mine anymore. But because you said you can kind of tell when they walk in. So when you saw me, do you know what my dosha is?
For the most part, I mean, like all of the three uh, body types, if you will, they have certain characteristics to
Mm-hmm.
them. And so, like for example, like both me and you, like we have the overall like round shape, and that's
Mm-hmm.
more like copper predominant. But if you see more of the like a taller, more leaner,
Mm-hmm.
um, more tall, lean kind of a characteristic, like sometimes you see more of the pitta stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I believe, and I have to. Oh no, my phone. Um, sorry, I just saw you went to. My phone's gonna die.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
I think you were more pitta kapha or kapha pitta. Hold on a
Yeah.
second. Let me
No,
plug
you're
you
fine.
in. I'm gonna die. Um, that's so funny. These like burn through my battery. Um, I think you were either kapha pitta. I'm trying to think. I have
Mm.
to hold my because my
No, no,
screen's
you're fine. What's your
Um, originally mine was pitta kapha, um, but I have done it a few times to where it comes up as more tridoshic, and that just basically means you have more work to do when it comes to balancing because there's the three doshas you have to maintain at a healthy level instead of just one or instead of two. So for the most part, like even during school, I was mostly in the Pitta category,
Mhm.
but um, it's really neat. It's a really neat thing to see just like how adjusting certain foods to those particular doshas kind of changes your overall state of being.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing all of this, Erica. And I'm gonna end it here because I'm looking at the time and Instagram's gonna cut me off sooner or later. But thank you so much for everything you shared, and thank you everybody for watching. And you're so awesome, Erica. I miss you so much.
I know I miss you.
You know.
One day soon we'll go and we'll take a trip to
Yeah, yeah.
Oregon.
I know, yeah, come visit. But yeah, so with that we'll end it here. But thank you so much, and then if you want to share it, I'll post it on Instagram. But thank you for everything you shared with me and with everybody and just kind of giving us a little glimpse of Ayurveda. I think it was really awesome for you to do that. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, so I'll let you go and we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.